I wanted to make a brief video tonight about the Yaesu FT-891 and 8 easy steps to improve your noise reduction and audio quality on the radio. There are just a few things that you can do to really improve the performance and make it a more enjoyable rig to use. And I'm going to go over those 8 steps right now. The first thing I would say, and this is not part of the 8 steps, but the speaker in this radio is not the best. So I would either get an external speaker or get some earbuds, pick up some earbuds. It'll improve audio quality by 200-300%. So that's the first thing that I would recommend, is to get an external speaker or earplugs. Now let's dive into the 8. I'm going to break these down into 2 categories. One will reduce interference, and the other category is to improve audio quality. So let's start with the first thing. To reduce interference, the first thing I would do is put some ferrite beads or a ferrite core on the coax for the antenna and the power supply. If you're running from a battery, you may not need them on the power leads, but it never hurts to have the ferrite cores on the coax to stop common mode currents and any other kind of noise that you may pick up on the outer shield of the coax. So number 1 is ferrite beads or ferrite cores. Number 2 is the digital noise reduction that the radio does. Now, you can see that I have the A key programmed for digital noise reduction. And you can also get there through the function menu. And the function key works by a long press or a short press, depending on what you're doing. And I'll try to cover part of that right now. So if you don't have your noise reduction programmed to one of your A, B, or C keys, then you can go through the function menu. So a short press will get you into the function menu. And we see here that the digital noise reduction is on the top right. Well, it's backlit, so it's not turned on. So to select that, you take your multifunction knob and you turn it backwards to DNR and you give it 1 press. When you do that, it'll bring up a scale where you can select the amount of digital noise reduction that you want. It goes from 1 all the way up to 15, I believe it is. Yep. And just depending on the signal that you're receiving and the noise level for the day, the digital noise reduction may help out. I like it. I run it pretty high a lot of times. Where I live, there's a lot of noise, but if I can get out into the countryside where there's not a lot of noise, I'll turn it down. But once you've selected the level that you want, you give it another press of the multifunction knob, and you'll see now DNR is backlit. That means that it is on. And then to turn it off again, you just give the button multifunction knob another press, and it turns it off. Now to escape your function menu, and we happen to be in function menu 2 right now, to escape the function menu, you give a long press on the function button, and it takes you back to the main screen. So that's the digital noise reduction. That works really well. Another thing that the radio has is a notch filter. So let's go back into the function menu, and we're looking for the notch function, and it's NCH right here, and you'll see it's not backlit. When you select your notch function, it brings this up. Now what you can do is, what you're looking at, that dip right here in the middle, is where it's notching out that part of the pass band. and you can adjust this. Let's say you've got interference below the center. You can adjust this to the left, turning the multifunction knob counterclockwise to reduce your noise. And it's real time. You can hear if you found it and you're reducing your noise. Unfortunately, this is not like the FT-710, which gives you a display, kind of a spectrum display of what you're receiving at the time, and you can actually see your noise. But with this one, you scroll back and forth and find it, or if you know whether it's higher or lower than the center of the frequency you're on, you can head that direction. Once you found what you want there, the part that's passing that you want to notch, you give it another press, and you can see that the notch filter is backlit, which means that it is on. If you go to your main menu, you can see that I'm looking for here. Well, it doesn't show it, but anyway. Let's look at one other thing. You set the width of the notch filter in the main menu. To get to the main menu, you do a long press of the function knob, and it takes you to the main menu. You can see where it, on the top of the screen, it shows 12.02, which is contour level. So this is the adjustment for the contour level. To change it, you give it one press, and then you can adjust it up or down. It's currently on 10. I believe it goes up to 20. And what I'm doing is you can go positive or negative with it to adjust your contour. So you can either boost it or you can reduce it, whatever suits you at the moment. So let's see. Oh, I take that back. That was contour. We're talking about notch at this time. The notch is either wide or narrow. I keep the notch filter on wide. That's just my preference. We'll come back to the contour in just a minute. To escape this menu, you do a short press, and it gets you back to the main screen. So let's go back into the function 1 menu, and we're going to turn the notch filter off. Then you do a long press to go back to the main screen. All right, now let's go look at the contour. So the notch filter will take you to a place where you can reduce an incoming noise. Like if somebody's trying to tune up on the frequency that you're on and they're doing it to create a disturbance, you can go over there and you can notch it out so that you can continue to use the band, the frequency that you're on, without interference from the what's in that notch frequency. Contour. I have contour programmed to my function C button, but to get there, you go back into the function menu and contour. Let's look at number 2, and we see here it's the second one on the second row. So you turn to go to contour. You press the multifunction knob one time, and you can see that contour. You can adjust it to the left, which is lower, or to the right, which is higher. So you can boost that part of the signal that you're receiving. Before we go back into the main menu, let's look at one other thing. We see that we've got contour turned on right there. We're going to turn that off. Now let's go back to the main menu here. Do a long press. All right, contour level. You can adjust the contour level to either boost or attenuate a portion of what's in the passband. So to adjust your level to either boost it, which would be a positive number, or attenuate part of it, which would be a negative number. You just highlight it and turn your knob to what you want to do. So that's how you adjust your level. You can also adjust the width of the contour by highlighting that. And it goes from 11 down to 1, I believe. Yes, 11 to 1. So I usually keep it on 10. Sometimes I use the contour. Sometimes I don't need to. The reception on this radio is actually pretty good. You don't have to have a lot of this engaged at the time. So let's get out of here. Short press. All right, now shift and width. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's find shift. It's probably menu 1. Yeah, it's bottom row, second one over SFT. Let's say you've got some interfering noise and you want to shift away from that noise. Well, you hit the multifunction button and you'll see here that you can shift what you're receiving left or right to avoid some incoming noise. And you just have to play with this to see if it'll help you. And let's look at one other thing. This is shift. We're going to turn shift off. Then the next thing is width. We'll look at width real quick. This adjusts the width of your passband. So currently we're at 2500 hertz. You can adjust it down to 18 or up to 32. I usually run it about 2700 hertz. And that works pretty good for me. Now what you can do, you can use multiple functions here. For example, you can use shift and width. And see if you can picture this. I can't, I think there's a picture of it in the manual, but if you have two interfering noise sources and what you want to let pass is in the middle, what you can do, you can narrow the width of what you're passing and then shift it to one side or the other so that it will eliminate that noise. And you'll be able to hear what you want to hear because you've let it pass. Also, the contour and the notch work the same way. I very seldom use the shift and the width. Well, I won't say very seldom. I'll just say not as much. I don't use the shift and the width as much as I use the notch and the contour because typically what I end up getting is just some noise within the passband. It's a very narrow bandwidth. So a lot of times I can notch it out. And then if I want to use contour to boost the adjacent, some other parts of the passband, I can do that. So personal preference, I'm sure that you'll use the one that you want to use the most, but I use notch and contour more than I used shift and width. Another thing, if you tend to be hunting signals, then you're not going to want things too narrow. But if you're on one frequency and you're calling CQ or working a POTA activation or something like that, then you may want to change the width and the shift and that kind of thing to help you operate better in the environment that you happen to be in. All right, so let's get out of this. This was what I call that was the interference portion, how you can get out from under interference that you're experiencing because of either from natural sources or some kind of man-made noise source, whether it be intentional or not. But anyway, so to boost the audio, what I find many times that helps to reduce noise and enhance the audio is to go in and to select IPO. Now let's go there and find that. I think it's in function 1. Yes, it is. IPO second over on the top. When you select IPO, what that does, that turns off or bypasses the preamp in the radio. And in turn, a lot of times it cuts back on a lot of your noise, audio noise, and will make it more pleasant to listen to, something where you can listen to it for a longer period of time without it wearing on you. So a lot of times, depending on what type of signal I'm receiving, the signal strength, I may go in there and bypass the preamp because I don't need it. So that's how you do that. When it's backlit, IPO is enabled, which means the preamp has been bypassed, and I'm just going to turn that off now. Oh, also, when IPO is turned on, if you go back to the main screen, you'll see IPO is illuminated on the screen. So you know that IPO is enabled. So let's go back in and turn that off. Now you can see that it's off. Like that was IPO. One other thing that's helpful is if you're in a particularly noisy environment, you can take attenuation. And to enable that, you just scroll over to it and hit the multifunction key, and it backlights it. So now you just added 12 dB of attenuation to your receive signal. And if you go back to the main screen, you see there that attenuation is enabled. That's your visual indicator from the main screen that you've got attenuation. And notice here on this frequency that I've got tuned in right now, with attenuation on, noise is at a S1. Watch what happens when we go back and turn attenuation off. Our noise is a S5. So, and just for example, let's go turn on IPO. IPO drops that noise level. So you have multiple tools that you can use to reduce it. And that's why a lot of times I leave IPO enabled. But anyway, let's go back and turn that off. So we've talked about, for the audio, IPO and attenuation. And one thing that's very helpful, this is the last thing on audio, is your RF gain. If you notice here, we've got the noise level of a S5 roughly. If we adjust our RF gain, and I would try to turn it up and let you hear it, but with the speaker you wouldn't be able to hear it. Adjust your RF gain to the point, turning it counterclockwise. You can see it goes up. The RF gain, that's essentially reducing your RF gain. So we have a noise level of a S5. Let's see if I can turn this up and you can hear it. Okay, you can hear the talking. Like there's our RF gain, our noise. As you turn the RF gain counterclockwise, you see it increases. It blocks out a lot of that noise. But anyway, the RF gain is very useful. And that's something that you can just tweak between the RF gain and your audio frequency gain. Those two things right there can do a lot for your noise. Well, anyway, I hope this video is helpful to somebody. If it is, share it. If you know somebody that has a FT-891, share this with them. Those settings right there do a lot to enhance the quality and the abilities of this radio. This is an older radio, but it's been out for a long time, but it's still a very good radio. 100 watts. It's light, easy to carry. It doesn't have a waterfall, but it does have a scope. I think the scope leaves a lot to be desired. But anyway, if this video's been helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody. Consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. We're going to have more videos like this. If you have an FT-710, I also have a video out on 5 easy steps to reduce noise there. So that may be useful to somebody too. Anyway, until the next video, take it easy and we'll see you then. 7-3.